Welcome to the Ask Jordan podcast, answering your questions about selling on Amazon. Now, he's peeled off more prices than a family of shoplifters. From Long Island, New York, here's your host, Jordan Malik.
Hello, Amazon sellers. My name is Jordan Malik. This is the Ask Jordan podcast 64th episode. Hey, thanks so much for making me part of your day. I appreciate your feedback. I appreciate your calls, the fact that you're avid listeners. And I know you have a lot of choices out there, and I'm honored that you've chosen to listen to me. Today's episode of the Ask Jordan's podcast is sponsored by MyLocalInventory.com. MyLocalInventory is the only service that scouts daily for local toys, new and used, for sale by homeowners in your city, and then sends you and only you an email comparing the toy for sale and the corresponding Amazon product and profit potential. If you don't know already, there are huge profit margins to be made by sourcing new and used toys locally and reselling them on Amazon, not just during Christmas, but year-round. My Local Inventory takes virtually all the legwork out of it for you for less than $1 a day. So for more details and several success stories by Amazon sellers just like you, go over to MyLocalInventory.com. MyLocalInventory.com. This is the podcast where, if you're listening for the first time, welcome, where we only answer your questions about selling on Amazon. Now, every episode we answer a different question from you, the listener, about selling on Amazon. And if you missed an episode, no problem, go to AskJordan.net. You'll see our most recent episodes there. There's a link to our archive, so if you view the episodes further back, you can watch them on YouTube, on Stitcher, on iTunes, or just play them right there in your browser. And if you want to hear your voice on an episode and get 7 of my best-selling ebooks 100% free, I'm going to tell you how to do that after we answer today's question. Today's question is from Tyson. Go ahead, Tyson.
Hi, Jordan. My name is Tyson. I found your podcast last week, and I think I have listened to every single episode since then. Really love the show. Thank you so much for a wonderful show and the great content and such honest reviews and honest answers. My question is, going into the first holiday season for me as an FBA provider, as I ship out these packages that are aimed towards Christmas gifts, how long do we have to wait before we know if these gifts are a sold item? Another way of putting this is, somebody opens a gift on December 25th and decides they don't like it. How long do they have to return that gift? So when can I reinvest the money that I'm earning from my Christmas sales back into my company? Thanks so much for the podcast. I really appreciate it. Keep it up.
Tyson, interesting question. Thank you. And I appreciate your compliments about the show. Okay, so for anybody who is relatively new to this, Tyson is worried that if he has refunds, customers return a product. I think where he's going is that it might hit him financially hard in terms of his earnings. But it's generally not the case. But let me give you an example, or let me set the scenario. If Tyson's a relatively new Amazon seller, whatever inventory he sells that's fulfilled by Amazon warehouses, his earnings, Amazon takes roughly 25% to a third of his earnings and then leaves him with the rest in a kind of reserve account on Amazon.com. And then every 2 weeks, Tyson can withdraw the monies into his own bank account or his business bank account. And I guess the question that Tyson is leading to is, say Tyson sells $1,000 worth of merchandise. And if there is a certain number of returns, when customers return a product to Amazon, then that dollar amount is then deducted, whatever proceeds that Tyson received from the initial sale, that dollar amount is typically deducted from his account. So in a very worst case scenario, if Tyson had all of his customers returning their products, he would end up with a negative balance, for instance, where Amazon would then probably charge his credit card on file to get those monies back, or they withdraw the money from his bank account, etc. But I've rarely seen that happen, Tyson. I think you should plan on, at the most, depending on what kind of products you were selling, like a 5 to 8% refund rate, meaning 5 to 8% of your customers return their orders. So you would essentially, plan on 5 to 8% of whatever the net revenue was refunded back to the customer. But that's probably a little bit on the high side, and all depends on what you're selling. I have so many mixed merchandise. I sell new and used toys. I sell new and used books. I sell grocery products. I sell liquidated products, etc. So my refund rate might be as high as 5% this year. I always have products that are being sold after the holiday. So your goal should be to always be selling, because your reserves in your Amazon seller account will continue to build up. And every 2 weeks you can make the withdrawal, but at least you'll have revenue coming in to accommodate for any returns. I don't think you should be hedging and kind of hesitating and waiting, stopping your Amazon sales, because the amount of refunds generally that would be automatically withdrawn from your account is infinitesimal compared to the variety of products that you're selling and the amount of revenue that you have coming in. So don't stop. If you're worried about refunds, make sure you've got continuous sales happening to accommodate for those refunds. But if you want to keep some reserves in your Amazon seller account, then my guess is keep 5% in there, 5% of whatever your monthly sales are. And most products, Amazon only allows 30 days for the customer to return them for refund. Baby products, they actually allow 90 days. And I was just looking at these refund rates, and you can find this yourself if you go to google.com and look up Amazon return policy. It'll display the help pages within Amazon, so you can get an idea of what the return policy is. I remember reading that Amazon was allowing 1 year for baby products to be returned, and that was about maybe roughly a year ago. And now when I look at their Amazon return policy, now it says 90 days. So I don't know if they've changed it back to 90 days or if they're quietly still honoring a year. You also should be cognizant that some customers successfully return products after 30 days and Amazon will refund them. So make sure you check that, because in some cases, if Amazon's policy is that the customer returns the item after the 30 days, you still get paid your commission. Amazon refunds the end customer out of their own pocket. So make sure you Google that to read those policies. Go to google.com and enter amazon.com return policy. Because there's something where they kind of side with the seller if the return is made after the 30 days and Amazon actually refunds them, that you're not impacted by that they are. And they're supposed to be, and sometimes they forget. And so that's a case where you want to open up a seller support ticket with Amazon seller support to make an inquiry about that. So let's talk about a little bit about what typically gets returned. I kind of avoid electronics. Electronics can be quirky and they get returned a lot. I bought at a liquidation store about quantity 10 of these really kind of cheaply made MP3 players, and I think 7 out of the 10 got returned, and I sold them for like $30 a piece. So that kind of dinged me a little bit hard back then. This is a good 2 years ago. The items that have less returns are, of course, groceries, when they're well within their expiration date. A lot of disposable items don't get returned much. Disposable items like bathroom sundries or filters for humidifiers, etc. Toys don't get returned as often. Baby products don't get returned as often. So, make sure you're diversifying, Tyson, amongst your merchandise, that you're selling a little bit of everything. Used books really don't get returned that often unless you haven't identified the condition correctly. If somebody's expecting a book that's like new, it's got a lot of dog-eared pages and a stain on the front, they'll probably return it. So make sure you're diversified, and I wouldn't worry too much about returns unless you're doing electronics, or if you're just doing like a handful of different items. If you've got quantity 1,000 of a blue widget and quantity 1,000 of a red widget, and you're selling those on Amazon, and the product tends to be faulty, then you can obviously expect a good number of returns in those scenarios. But not many sellers are in that position where they have to financially prepare themselves for a return. And I hope that explains it. Tyson, thank you so much for contributing that question. Tyson gets all 7 of my ebooks about selling on Amazon and eBay. Tyson, just go to AskJordan.net, click on the small envelope icon in the upper right-hand corner, and send me an email so I know where to send your ebooks to. And if you, the listener, want to submit a question to the podcast and have a chance to win all my best-selling ebooks like Tyson, call 516-619-ONLINE, 516-619-6654, or go to AskJordan.net, scroll down, look for the directions on submitting your question there. Hey, thanks again for listening. This has been the Ask Jordan Podcast. We'll see you again in our next episode.